If you notice this psychological shift in your avoidant partner, don't leave, because what looks like distance is actually love trying to survive its own fear. Avoidants don't express love in the usual ways, they don't constantly say it with words, nor do they show affection every moment. Instead, they fight a silent war, on one side the desire to get close, and on the other the instinct to run so they don't get hurt. This shift shows itself in subtle ways. The warmth that was once there begins to fade, their eyes go quiet, and their messages become shorter and simpler. You feel them slowly pulling away, and every part of you wants to chase. But pause, this is the most delicate and important moment, because what you're feeling isn't rejection, it's their heart trying to protect itself from love, as fear takes control of their nervous system. The closer an avoidant gets to someone, the more unsafe their body and mind feel. Closeness doesn't calm them, it triggers alarm. Love can feel overwhelming, intense, even dangerous to them. So when they pull back slightly, it doesn't mean they've stopped loving, it means love has become too powerful, too exposing, too real for them. This is the psychological shift, where words decrease, but feelings increase, where silence hides a heart that is screaming, yet cannot speak. If you understand this moment, and respond with calm instead of panic, you not only preserve the relationship, but you teach them that love can be safe, and they can slowly start coming closer to you despite their fear. And in this video, we will uncover the 4 signs of this shift, those small subtle signals that show the avoidant is actually falling in love with you, even while fighting the fear inside. And every part of you wants to chase. But pause, this is the most delicate and important moment, because what you're feeling isn't rejection, it's their heart trying to protect itself from love, as fear takes control of their nervous system. The closer an avoidant gets to someone, the more unsafe their body and mind feel. Closeness doesn't calm them, it triggers alarm. Love can feel overwhelming, intense, even dangerous to them. So when they pull back slightly, it doesn't mean they've stopped loving, it means love has become too powerful, too exposing, too real for them. This is the psychological shift, where words decrease, but feelings increase, where silence hides a heart that is screaming, yet cannot speak. If you understand this moment, and respond with calm instead of panic, you not only preserve the relationship, but you teach them that love can be safe, and they can slowly start coming closer to you despite their fear. And in this video, we will uncover the 4 signs of this shift, those small subtle signals that show the avoidant is actually falling in love with you, even while fighting the fear inside. The first sign of this psychological shift is what I call the emotional freeze. It's that quiet moment when the warmth you once felt begins to fade, not all at once but slowly, like the dimming of a light. You'll notice they stop expressing affection. Their words become shorter, their energy flatter, their body language still, like someone trying to disappear inside their own skin. You start to wonder, did I do something wrong? But what's really happening is something far more complex. Avoidants don't stop feeling, they stop showing, because inside, they're flooded. Their emotions rise too fast, too deep, too uncontrollable, and so they do what they've always done, shut down before they overflow. To the outside world it looks like they don't care, but internally they're trying to manage chaos. Every part of them is screaming, don't mess this up, don't get too attached. They'll replay your last conversation over and over, analyzing every word you said, every tone, every look, and when you ask, what's wrong, they'll whisper, nothing, because to them nothing feels safer than being seen in their panic. This freeze isn't rejection, it's protection. Their body is responding the same way it did years ago, when connection once meant criticism, abandonment, or loss of control. In that moment, their nervous system hijacks them. They want to reach for you, but their survival instincts say, don't, so they freeze between desire and fear, love and defense. Here's the paradox. The more they care, the colder they may appear, because love for them activates every old wound they've buried. And that's why your reaction matters most here. If you chase, they'll retreat further. If you punish, their walls harden. But if you stay calm, steady, warm and grounded, you tell their body something it's never known before. Love doesn't have to hurt. When you stay instead of react, their nervous system slowly learns a new truth, that connection and safety can exist together. And that's when the ice begins to melt, not because you forced it, but because your calm taught their fear how to breathe again. The second sign of this psychological shift is withdrawal. It doesn't happen suddenly, it creeps in quietly. They start spending more time alone. They scroll aimlessly, lost in distractions. They say they're just tired, just need space, or just not in the mood. But behind that withdrawal lies a thought they'll never say out loud. I'm getting too close, and I might lose myself. To an avoidant, closeness isn't comfort, it's a threat, because deep down their nervous system has learned a dangerous equation: love equals sign, loss of independence. They were often raised in environments where affection came with conditions, where love meant control, where needing someone meant surrendering power. So now when they start to care too much, their instincts whisper, retreat before you disappear. It's not that they don't want you, it's that connection feels like drowning in something they can't control. This withdrawal isn't about you being unworthy, it's about them trying to survive their own feelings. Because every moment of closeness awakens an old fear that if they lean in they'll lose their sense of self. And here's the paradox: the more they love, the more they pull away, not to hurt you but to protect themselves from being consumed by the very thing they crave. Now this is where most people panic. You feel them slipping away and your heart wants to chase. You want to talk, explain, fix, but the moment you chase, their walls rise higher, because to their nervous system pursuit feels like pressure, and pressure feels like danger. But if instead of chasing you pause, take a breath, and simply hold emotional space, something powerful happens. You show them what they've never experienced before, that love can exist without demand, connection can breathe without control. And in that stillness their fear begins to soften. They start to realize you're not a threat to their freedom, you're a safe place within it. That's when the avoidance starts to return, not because you pulled them back, but because your calm presence reminded them real love doesn't take their independence away, it gives it back. And that's exactly why you become unforgettable. Then comes the third shift, emotional testing. This is where the avoidant begins to speak in contradictions. They'll say things like, I'm not sure I'm built for relationships, or you deserve someone more emotional than me. On the surface, it sounds like rejection, like they're slowly pushing you out of their world. But beneath those words, there's something far more vulnerable happening, a quiet confession wrapped in self-protection. You see, avoidants don't test your love to play games, they test it to feel safe. Every time they say something distant, what they really mean is, can you still accept me when I'm scared? They're not asking for reassurance, they're watching your reaction, because their entire childhood taught them that love comes with expectations, that the moment they show fear or hesitation, they'll be judged, shamed or abandoned. So when they drop those lines, I'm not good at feelings, I just don't know if I'm meant for this, they're really saying, please don't make me wrong for feeling this way. This is where most connections collapse. The other person panics, over-explains, or tries to convince them to stay. But when you do that, their nervous system registers threat, not safety. They retreat deeper. The secret is emotional neutrality, to breathe, to listen, to meet their fear with calm understanding. When you softly reply, I get it, love feels different for everyone. You're not minimizing what they feel, you're validating it without rescuing them from it. That single moment begins to rewire something deep in their psychology, because for the first time, their fear of love isn't punished, it's understood. They realize that connection doesn't have to mean losing control, and that vulnerability doesn't always end in rejection. That's when the testing slows down, the sharp edges of their words start to soften, their eyes linger longer, their tone warms, not because you convinced them, but because your steadiness spoke to the part of them that's been terrified to trust. And in that quiet emotional space, they begin, slowly, cautiously, to let love in. Because you didn't chase their fear, you met it, and that's what made them feel safe enough to stay. After withdrawal and testing comes the softest, and often the most confusing, shift of all: the reconnection signal. It rarely arrives with clarity. There's no big apology, no deep confession, no I missed you so much. Instead it slips in quietly, a late night hey, a random meme, a soft almost shy question, did you eat? Most people overlook it. They roll their eyes, call it breadcrumbs and think, now they remember me. But for an avoidant, that small gesture isn't casual, it's courage. It's the nervous system testing safety again, asking, is it still safe to reach out? Because to them vulnerability feels like standing on thin ice. Every message, every tiny step back toward you, carries risk. The risk of being seen, of being wanted, of being hurt again. Avoidants don't love through big speeches or dramatic gestures. They love through subtle consistency, through small check-ins that whisper what their heart can't yet say out loud. I still care. I didn't stop thinking about you. I'm trying, in the only way I know how. This is where many people make a mistake. They respond with anger, indifference, or emotional tests of their own. But that reaction confirms the avoidant's deepest fear that closeness equals danger. The real power lies in your warm neutrality, responding without pressure, without sarcasm, without making it a moment. A simple calm reply, something as small as, "Hey, it's good to hear from you," tells their nervous system, "It's safe here, you can come closer." That's how the healing begins. That's how an avoidant learns that love doesn't always end in loss, that connection can exist without control, because the truth is, when an avoidant sends that meme, that message, that late night hey, they're not just reaching out to you, they're reaching through fear, they're choosing love, even if they don't yet have the words for it. And when you meet that moment with quiet warmth, you don't just respond to a text, you respond to a transformation. That's the moment the distance starts to dissolve, and love, once frozen in fear, begins to breathe again. Now that you understand these subtle signs, it's time to shift your perspective. Avoidants are not distant because they don't care, they are learning to navigate emotions they've always been taught to fear. This is where your role becomes crucial. Instead of trying to control the outcome, focus on what you can influence: your own energy. Stay calm, present, and grounded. Your steadiness is a signal your avoidant partner's nervous system can actually trust. Notice the moments when they reach out, even small gestures like a message, a meme, or a quiet check-in. Meet these moments with warmth, curiosity, and patience. You don't need to push, over-explain, or fix anything. Your response is enough to show that closeness doesn't have to feel dangerous. This is also a chance to reflect on your own boundaries. Supporting someone through their fears doesn't mean losing yourself. It means holding space for love while protecting your own emotional well-being. The real power isn't in chasing or testing, it's in being the calm, safe presence they rarely encounter. It's in letting them feel seen without feeling pressured. And if you carry this approach forward, the avoidance frozen walls will begin to soften, trust will deepen, and connection can flourish in a way that feels steady, not chaotic. In the next video, we'll dive into practical steps to rebuild emotional safety, how to encourage closeness without triggering fear, and how to turn these subtle signs into a lasting, secure bond. Because when you meet their fear with understanding, you're not just witnessing love, you're creating it.